Hello, I'm Catherine Ferris, owner of Marketecs. Lately, I've been posting how-to videos focused on marketing automation and implementation, but today I want to walk you through some strategy and planning behind creating powerful lead magnets. Lead magnets or opt-ins are an essential part of a great marketing funnel, and that funnel should be building your sales pipeline. So in this video, I will discuss the strategy and planning behind creating a lead magnet, as well as give you a free tool, so please wait till the end, to help you with your next opt-in and making it your best one. All right, let's start with what is a lead magnet exactly, and a little bit about why they might not be successful. A lead magnet is simply something that turns visitors into contacts, something that actually puts contacts into your CRM or customer relationship manager. Sometimes you might go to a website and they say, enter your name and email for 10% off or free shipping or something to that effect. And those are pretty common on shopping sites when you have physical products. That is a very simple version of a lead magnet. Now, some common mistakes around a lead magnet or reasons why they might not be successful. One, if they're not tailored to your specific audience. Two, if the value is vague, if people don't really understand what they're getting. And three, if it's too difficult for people to actually get what you're offering, so there's too much friction. That being said, what are some typical types of lead magnets and what's working right now? If you're not doing physical products, if you're not shipping things, then the free shipping examples that I gave and the 10% off, those things may not be applicable to what you're working on. If you're more of a consultant, if you're more of a business coach, or if you're just starting out and you don't have things set up yet in a shopping cart to actually sell, you can still have a lead magnet. Some common lead magnets are checklists or templates. Those are probably some of the most basic, some of the easiest to create. And those can be a simple PDF of whatever content you have. And we're going to talk a little bit more about what that should be and what that should look like in just a minute here. Going down the list to get a little more intricate, a little more involved would be a mini course or even just a single valuable video series. A quiz would also be something that would be a little more intricate, a little more involved in comparison to, say, just a checklist or a template. And you can do a very simple quiz where it still looks like a checklist or a template and they self-score and that sort of thing. Or you could do something that's a lot more tech heavy where it actually scores for them and gives them custom results. So even within that quiz example, there's a few different ways you can actually execute that. Next up is maybe a live webinar. And this is going to create a little sense of urgency because there's going to be a specific date and a time where people have to show up for your live webinar. And then it also can double up as then becoming an evergreen webinar. After you've given the live event, you'll have a recording. So you can turn that into evergreen and continue to use that content as your video series or your recorded demo in the future. Another kind of newer option that's coming out right now is custom GPTs. And I actually do an entire video on custom GPTs and how I'm using them. So I will link to that in the description. You might want to check that out. But overall, the idea of lead magnets and what's going to work comes into the planning process. And part of this is really trying to keep it simple. Before you spend a ton of time recreating content specifically for a lead magnet, there's some things you can do to test what's going to work. And think about it as creating version 1.0, and then you're going to create version 2.0 if 1.0 is successful. And you can even reuse existing content to make this work. Another kind of version of doing that sort of testing is to, if you have an idea for a lead magnet, start by writing a blog post or doing a YouTube video about it. And if you get a lot of attention or if you put it in your newsletter and it gets a lot of clicks, that might give you an indicator that you should turn this into a lead magnet and at least request an opt-in before people get this content in the future. So there's ways you can test this before you actually put a ton of effort into creating something. So let's talk about that process of planning and creating your next lead magnet. The first thing you should always know in business is who is your ideal client. So you really want to know who you're trying to attract what they're struggling with, what are their main pain points. And this isn't just lead magnet specific. This is for all of the content you're creating. This is for that next blog post. This is for the video you're creating. This is for the next big program you're creating. This is for any piece of content. It should really be speaking to your ideal prospect. Otherwise, you may be wasting your time. So once you've identified your ideal prospect, their age, their profession, their gender, and there is a difference between creating a customer avatar that is extremely specific, where you give that person a name, versus having just an ideal client prospect in mind, where you say, generally speaking, they're this age to this age, and both have value. Understanding both of those pieces, having that very specific avatar and having more of that general ideal client profile, both have extreme value, because when you have a very specific person in mind that you're speaking to, your language changes. When you think of your best client, your language changes, and the way you present, and maybe your tone, all of that stuff. So if you are, again, just starting out and maybe you're a little fuzzy about your ideal client or your avatar, you can take a look at who you've worked with so far. And this was something I actually did very early on. I started my business with this idea of, oh, this is who I'm going to help. And then as I got my first few clients, I realized none of them matched that ideal client profile that I had in mind. And some of the things they were requesting were a little different than what I was expecting as well. And so I started to look down through my list of early clients and say, okay, so it's not exactly what I expected. I can accept that. But who's my best client, or who's my best top 5 clients in this list? I want to get more of them. And that helped me start to build that ideal client profile, because I was able to actually model it off of people I was already working with. And I could say, oh, this is the age range they fall into. They're mostly male or mostly female. They typically call themselves this. I may have called them a business coach. They may call themselves a consultant. And there is a clear distinction between the two, and we won't get into that. But the idea is, it's not about what you call them, it's about what they call themselves. And that wording becomes extremely important in marketing and in creating this lead magnet. You really have to think about the person you're targeting and what words did they use. Because if you use different words than them, you're going to have that vague product description, and they're not going to understand the outcomes, and they're not going to opt in or buy from you or understand what it is you're selling. The confused mind does not buy. Keep that in mind always. You need to be very, very clear with your outcomes when you're creating any content. That's a little bit on the ideal client profile, or your ideal prospect, having them in mind. When you have them in mind and you really understand their struggles, or you understand, and it's really what they believe they're struggling with, even if you have something different in mind that you know will help them, you have to start in the beginning with what they believe they're struggling with. And then you have to come up with, what can I do that's going to give them a quick win? Because let's face it, we're in an age of immediate satisfaction, gratification, whatever you want to call it. And people don't want to watch a 2-hour video for a solution. They want a 10 or a 15-minute video. They want a template. They want a quick solution to their problem. And if you can give them a quick win, then you've earned some trust. And the whole plan here is the know, like, and trust factor. You want them to know who you are, to identify you, and that comes into branding and recognizing you. You want them to like you. You want them to believe you are a good person and that you are here to help them, and that they can actually talk to you, that they enjoy talking to you. And this is where video can be very helpful. And then you want them to trust you. You want them to know that you are an expert in your industry, whatever industry that might be, whatever solution that might be that you're providing. And so you need to be able to do that in 10 to 15 minutes. And you have to think about the best way to deliver that quick result. Is it, again, a checklist or a quiz or a video? And it has to both match what you can produce, as well as how your ideal client, your ideal prospect, likes to engage with content. It could be that you want to survey some people or put out something on LinkedIn or in a Facebook group to help identify that, if you don't have a good group already to survey, or a good idea in that case. So we've got this idea of our ideal client. We've got the fact that you want to make an immediate win. But like I said before, you also want to keep it simple, and you don't want to put a ton of time into stuff that you're not 100% sure is going to convert. So you want to think about your customer journey and you want to think about your overall funnel process. What's your end goal? So what I like to do is that starting with the end in mind process when I'm thinking about a lead magnet. I like to go to what is the end product that I am hoping my ideal client will buy, right? Is it a 12-month coaching process, or is it a website redesign, or what's that end thing that I'm hoping that they will buy? And hopefully from that, you can say, okay, I'm going to splinter off a piece of that. I'm going to say, in this big process that I have, there's this one section that is typically addresses what they come in asking for. It's one of my frequently asked questions in an interview or in a consultation. People come in asking for this particular thing. I can say from a marketing perspective, a lot of times that will be, how do I build a lead funnel? Or a lead magnet? How do I build a sales funnel? How do I grow my leads? And, how do you grow your leads? Well, you start with a good lead magnet. So this is kind of an example of that splintering process where I'm taking part of the overall funnel process, which is a lead magnet, and I'm splintering it off into a video about lead magnets and a tool, like I said, that I'm going to show you in a few minutes here. So if you could splinter off a piece, and then if that piece still feels too big, it's not that 10 to 15 minute solution, then you need to look to splinter it off even further. You need to be able to create that 10-minute checklist or whatever it might be. If you are a coach or a consultant, you may have a 10-step process that you run your clients through. Well, is there one process that really hits a frequently asked question mark? And then from that one process, is there a specific checklist or template that you can offer them as a lead magnet that can stand on its own? That might be the thing you want to look at and the thing you want to start with, because you already have it. It's easy to implement. It hits something they're struggling with, and it's a part of your overall process. So the idea of nurturing them into becoming a longer term client should be easier if you're already giving them something that's part of your process and part of your content. All right, so that's the overall, how do you choose your lead magnet? What's the strategy behind a lead magnet? What's that process look like? Then we get into the technical, how do I build this? How do I actually deliver this? What does that process look like? And honestly, that is where Marketecs and Marketecs Engine really comes into play. That is a lot of what we do with our clients, is going to that next step of building and deploying their funnels and their lead magnets. So as far as building the lead magnet process, it's 4 steps. It is build the opt-in form, build the funnel pages, connect everything, send the emails. It sounds fairly simple in that way, and if you're using good software, it can be. The other nice part about using good software is that you can actually repeat that process. You can clone that process over and over again once you have one built. The first one will always be the hardest. After that, again, if your software is up to par, there's additional automation things that you can do. I did a whole nother video on lead scoring and funnel stages and tagging. I did another one also if you're using video. I did another video all about video tracking percentages. You can track the percentage of a video that somebody watches and then send customized messages based on that. So these are all more advanced automation tips that will up-level your lead magnet process. You can also take that live webinar and switch it over to Evergreen. And I do, again, another video on that. And I'll put all of these links in the video description. Next, I want to show you the tool that I promised. I want to show you a tool that I actually created that can help you strategize, plan, and even build your lead magnet and even your whole sales funnel if you'd like to. But I know we were talking specifically about lead magnets today, so let's focus on that. So one of the lead magnet options that I mentioned was building a custom GPT. And as I said, I did another video about exactly how to build this, all the steps that go into this. And this is my lead magnet based on a custom GPT. So this page is all built in Marketecs Engine. This is the opt-in page, we call it. And this gives you all the details of my lead magnet. I'm telling you exactly how I built it. I'm giving you some trust factors here around my experience as well as testimonials. I tell you exactly what you're going to get. I'm trying to be as clear as possible with, if you opt in, you are going to get access to this free funnel designer. So when you click the box, you can register. And I do ask for some extra details here. I feel like this lead magnet is very valuable and I really want to understand who's utilizing it. If this becomes a barrier to entry, one of the things causing friction, I understand that and I'm willing to accept that. And that's something to consider for your lead magnet too. How much details are you going to ask for when somebody registers for your lead magnet? Is it just going to be first name and email? Is it just going to be email? You can see here that not everything is required, but several of the fields are required. Now, after you fill in all the details, consent, and prove that you're not a robot, you would be taken to the funnel designer access page. So this is essentially the thank you page. It's the second step in the funnel that is my lead magnet. So you design these two web pages and they are connected so that they operate together. Now, after you provide all that information, which all goes to my CRM, it goes to Marketecs Engine, all the same platform that built these pages as well. Being all in one has a huge amount of advantages. Once you come here, it says, here it is, you're in. And I provide some instructions. Now, I do think this can be important anytime you're doing something outside of a very basic download or checklist. If you're just doing a download or a checklist, that's super easy. Just give it to them directly. I would give it to them on a thank you page as well as in an email, just in case that page didn't load or in case the email didn't show up. That way you're sending it to them two different ways is always my recommendation. In this case, there are some instructions because you do have to log into ChatGPT. You do not need a paid account. You can have a free account to access this. I give a quick little tutorial video as well here because again, this is a little more in-depth, a little more involved. This is made for a little more advanced business owner, someone who's a little more tech savvy, because that is my ideal client. And that's why I was also okay with creating this as a custom GPT. I want that person that would know how to go in and use this. So you've got how it works. I do try to alleviate some of that tension here with how it works and even some prompt suggestions, just ideas of what they can do. Then I have some additional resources here. I have the template, I have planning documents, I have some additional articles, things like that if people want a little more hands-on approach and research before they start using the Launch Designer. And when you click on this button, the Launch Designer will automatically open, especially if you have ChatGPT already open in another tab. I happen to already have it open here. So I am going to start showing you how this works. I'm just going to click the prompt here for help me design a lead magnet. And it's going to search how it's created. I have already set this up with a lot of information to help run people through exactly what the questions I would ask if you came to me and said, how do I design a lead magnet? And you can see here, it's asking me who is my ideal client and target audience? What's the core offer that I'm leading people to? It's asking all the things, if you look, that I already covered in this video. It's trying to walk you through that same process and it's then offering some suggestions, but the more that you answer, the more that you interact and engage with this and answer these questions, it's going to customize the responses and it's going to help you design an actual lead magnet. And this was based off one very simple, very easy prompt, which is not necessarily a great one. If you could prompt this specifically with, I am such and such business, my target audience is such and such, I want to create a lead magnet out of my checklist for XYZ, this response would look extremely different. It would actually be a lot further along. So this is my tool, and I will put a link to this in the description as well, so that you can actually get help through AI in creating your next lead magnet. I hope today you discovered that lead magnets do not need to be overly complicated, but they do need to be strategic. If you're ready to create lead magnets and generate sales, not just subscribers, I hope that you will try out the Marketecs AI Funnel Designer for planning and strategizing, and I hope you'll take a look at Marketecs Engine for building and deploying your sales funnel and your next lead magnet. The links are all in the description, including a free strategy session if you need help building your funnel. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.